this time period and address questions as they come up. So as far as the updates go, I wanted to talk a little bit about preview mode. This is kind of a refresher, but some things have come up that I really want to talk about. First of all, I know many of you have already done this, but I wanted to just reiterate the fact that we need everyone to log into the Sierra desktop application or the SDA on your workstation. And if it's not there or if it's not available, notify your director or extension manager if you're at MPL. For the suburban staff, that means logging in using your personal staff initials. There are a few exceptions to this. North Shore, Hales Corners, and St. Francis, I believe, are the ones that have set up different types of logins. I could be wrong on St. Francis. But we've set those up a little differently. But for the majority of suburban staff, you're going to log in using your personal staff initials and no longer using the MC40 or MCAT logins. For Milwaukee public staff, they're going to be using a process similar to Millennium. I don't see anyone on the call here right now from MPL, but they're using a process similar to Millennium. If you're unable to log in for any reason, and we've had some staff that, for whatever reason, changed their passwords after January 30th, if they're not able to log in, and contact Kate at the help desk, and she'll be able to get you squared away. We'll just create a temporary password so that you can get in and do your business on April 2nd. After April 2nd, you'll be able to change your password and be able to get in and do that. Once you've logged in, review the drop-down menu labeled Functions in the upper right-hand corner. If I move my mouse around here, it's this drop-down menu in the upper right-hand corner called Function. And the other thing, the real important thing we'd like you to review is your printers. And we kind of covered this briefly in most of the sessions that we've held. But as I'm thinking about this, it's more important. I think we'll have more printer questions than anything related to Sierra functionality on April 2nd. So I'd like to really kind of nip that in the bud and get people thinking about their printers. I'm talking specifically mostly about your receipt printers at the cert desk to make sure that those are functional. Many of you have set it up so that it remembers the settings that were used for that printer on that particular workstation. And that's going to have to be rebuilt. There's nothing you really have to do other than to just test it to make sure that it's working. And I'm going to go into Sierra here and just show you where that's located. If you go to File, select Printer, for example, and Receipt Printer, normally you're going to use your local printer for that. That's where your receipt printers are all set up. Usually your Star TSP 650 or some other printer that you're using for receipt printers. Check that and change it to my Star TSP 650. That's a good start, but that's not the only thing you have to check. What you should really do is go through each one of these tabs in both Sierra and Millennium to make sure that they match specifically. Now for your hold slips and anything using a print template like a transit slip, that's not going to be affected by this so much. But what you want to do is go for your date due receipts that will be affected by this. So you want to go into page setup, make sure that the media is usually this 72 millimeter by receipt, but just see what you've got in Millennium and match it with what you have in Sierra and just hit OK, and it should retain those settings. You can also go to appearance. This isn't going to change much here, but the real important one is format. When you're using receipt printers, you're generally going to use this text narrow setting, so that's 40 characters per line. And your lines to eject are normally around 9. I've got it set to 2. And you always want to make sure that the print form feed boxes checked for your receive printers. Once I hit OK, it should retain those settings. The interesting thing with Sierra is it will save the settings for that person that's logged in. So you may want to have your core Circ staff log in and make sure that those settings work for them. If someone else logs in the morning, you will have to look at those settings, at least for the first week or so. So this print properties file that needs to be built up will be there. The same goes with the file select printer and standard printer. This one's a lot easier to work with. You would just choose local printer here as well. I've got mine set up to my default printer here, my LaserJet. But in my page setup, I've got it set to letter, which is pretty standard. And then format I have set up to graphic. It's just using font size of 8. That can be either text or graphic. It depends on what you want to use. But just go into Millennium, see what you're doing there for both your standard printer and your receipt printer, and also your label printer. And compare the settings there to what you're using in Sierra and make sure they match. The other thing we like you to check is your settings in Millennium and comparing them to what you have in Preview, in Sierra Preview. I think most everyone has contacted us about any changes that need to be made, but mostly we're looking at things like, if we go to admin settings, and going to macros, making sure that those look correct, and also record templates, and checking to make sure that those are okay. We do have training videos for the other sessions that we've done. Those are available either on mcfliss.org or the YouTube channel. If you do a search for in YouTube, if you go to youtube.com and search for MCFLS numeral 1, that'll show all of our training sessions that we've done so far. Okay, so as far as what's going to happen on April 1st, a lot of the stuff will have to be done by me or Milwaukee Public Library Technical Services, but I just want to let you know that it's happening. We're going to clear headings reports at the end of business day on April 1st. This is mostly a CCDM thing that Kathy Marquise and Nancy Wojnarowicz take care of at MPL. So we've arranged for this to happen, so it will. We're going to back up the system the evening, or actually morning of April 2nd, around 1 a.m. And then we're going to have to save off and delete our web access management statistics. These are the stats we use for database statistics. We have to save them off and delete them off the server. Apparently that's a requirement. So that's the things that we're going to do at McFliss or MPL. For those of you in acquisitions, you will have to do a number of different steps. I've sent an email out to the acquisitions group already informing them of what they'll need to do. But it's basically stopping all financial functions, printing, sending all purchase orders, claims, posting all invoices and encumbrances, and printing the fund activity reports. I'll be going through each one of them and seeing if it actually, each one of these acquisitions units that are part of our system have done that. So if it's not been done, I'm going to go ahead and clear the payment history file in particular. On April 2nd, we're asking folks to not use Millennium at all on April 2nd. I know this is a little different from what we did on January 20th, but we're asking folks to not use Millennium at all. Don't clear the whole shelf, don't do any check-ins, don't do any edits to any records. After the backup's performed in the morning of April 2nd, we risk losing any information that's not backed up. Also, do not use Sierra until I give the all clear. We have to perform a lot of tests on April 2nd after we come back up, after the migration's done. And so before you log in and perform certain transactions, we have to run some tests. So I'm asking folks to just wait until I give the all clear on that. And that is usually going to be done by an email blast, and I'll send that out to everybody. The shutdown is going to happen at 9 a.m. Central. We're going to be down for 4 to 6 hours, but plan for the full day in case there's any complications. As far as available services, what's going to be available on April 2nd? Well, we'll go through the not available first. The most noteworthy is SAMS. SAMS will not be available. It was a real problem on January 20th for those libraries that were using it, so we decided to just shut it off because it was causing way too many problems. And I had more problems with SAMS after January 20th than we actually had with anything related to the server migration on that day. So what's going to happen is we're going to actually turn SAMS off for both the MPL libraries and also for the suburban libraries that are open. We can actually do this. It'll just not appear when you boot up your machines in the morning. Now, if that's an issue or you want me to do something different, please let me know. But that's the plan right now, is to do it that way. So there will be no login screen for SAMS. It will just show the desktop. Also not available that day will be obviously Millennium, the CountyCat catalog, including Encore. Shutdown will probably send out something in the morning, but not anything else that day. And you won't be able to interact with Shutdown to get all your lists of holds and things like that. Remote database access will also not be available if you're using the proxy server to get access, so you have to authenticate using your barcode and PIN. What will be available is the internet at all suburban MPL libraries. CountyCat Mobile will be available. You won't be able to get into your patron account, but you will be able to see catalog holdings. It won't be real up-to-date. It will be kind of like a static view of our catalog, but you may be able to use that if you want. Overdrive should be able to be used both remotely and in-house, but that's only for those users who have logged in previously and have a record in the Overdrive database, so new users would not be able to get in. And, of course, databases within the library, since there's no proxy involved for that. So those are the services that are not available or available. Offline circulation, I just want to talk briefly about that before we open it up. For MPL libraries, they're going to use the same Millennium offline circulation option as normal. Nothing's really changed there. The suburban libraries should all have a Sierra offline circulation program now on your desktop. If you don't see that, please let me know, or Kate. We'll get Q out there to rectify this, or we'll send out the application to you to install it yourself. They're essentially the same program as we've used before. We're just rebranding it Sierra Offline because the port number slightly changed, and we need to have that in order to upload the transactions once we're back online. The instructions for offline are available on the knowledge base on mcflis.org, or I can send them to you if you still need them. They were distributed at the Circ Services meeting in mid-March. Regarding offline, please verify your computer time and your stack group are correct in the offline program. It's probably the most important thing. After we get okay from Innovative that the migration is complete, I will start testing it. So hopefully within 4 to 6 hours after we'll come back up. We'll test the Circ functions first. Make sure that those are working. We'll do some Webpack testing next. So it's really going to be focusing on circulation first and foremost, make sure that area is set up and working. And then we'll also do, I'm going to move upstairs briefly and test the self-check and automated materials handling to see if that is functioning as normal. The same port numbers are being used for both Millennium and Sierra for that service, so I don't think anything will be any different. After the initial testing is successful, I'll give the OK to start using Sierra and for offline transactions to be uploaded. We're handling this a little bit differently this time around. When the transactions have been uploaded to our new Sierra server, call me and leave a message. I may not get back to you immediately, but I will get back to you. I'm sure there'll be lots of things happening that day. The most important thing is to not clear your transactions after you call me. Keep them on your workstation. I will call you back, let you know that the processing happened and everything is fine, and then you can clear them off. There's an option in Sierra Offline to do that. Also, there'll be a slight change in handling of error messages. Normally, I would have you go in to the SSH client and do that yourself. However, since it's not available, I will be handling the error messages. Once I call you back, I'll ask for an email address to send those, either a staff member or one of your library email addresses, so that your staff can review those and make any changes that need to happen. And lastly, please contact me for any errors or problems after you go live, but make every effort to make sure the staff can log in beforehand, and that your printers in particular are working ahead of time. So that's about it. If anyone has any questions, I'd be more than happy to address those. The one thing I did also want to mention is there is an issue that we're currently seeing with Sierra displaying the facets in search results for locations. They're showing a mix of the numbers and the actual descriptions of the locations. We've been told a fix is in the works, but it will not be ready for April 2nd. It shouldn't affect the display of search results, but that facet group is going to look a little weird for a few weeks, they're telling us, before that fix can be put in. Okay, yeah, Sheila had a question here regarding some instructions that I sent her yesterday regarding the self-check machines, and I'm glad you raised that. I was going to send something out to the directors sometime today about this. In general, the self-check machines and the sorting machines will work just fine because they're using the same port that they're using in Millennium to communicate. However, the RFID pads that are at most circulation desks, for those folks who are RFID libraries, the RFID pads may need to be configured correctly to work with Sierra. Now, MPL alerted me to this yesterday, and they've got a fix for their Biblioteca RFID pads, and I sent that off to Sheila, and that's what she's referring to. I've also talked with a few 3M libraries to have them test. I talked with Robert at Wauwatosa and also Jennifer Leffel at Franklin to have them run some tests. There may be some minor things that need to happen in order for Sierra to work with that, but it should work. My understanding is with Biblioteca, you can actually set it to work with only certain applications and not others. So if you're editing an email, you know, and someone lays a book on the RFID pad, it's not going to insert a barcode in your email, that type of thing. But I think these work a little bit differently for everybody, so we'll work on that. Okay. Okay, so Kathy's got a question here. Is there any file or database cleanup we needed to do before conversion? It's a very good question. In fact, that's probably the first thing I thought of when we were going to Sierra. And their answer is pretty much the same that they give to everybody. They say that it's easier to do the cleanup after the conversion rather than before. And if we do a lot of changes to the database beforehand, then we'd run the risk of adding more variables to this migration than is necessary, frankly. And once they explain that to us, that made a lot of sense. There's a lot more tools that you can use within Sierra in terms of database cleanup than you can with Millennium. That made a lot of sense to me. Plus, we can use the SQL querying capabilities of Sierra to do more thorough cleanup, I guess, if you want to call it that. I think that's the way we're looking at it. We're just not going to make a lot of changes right now, in particular to the database. Plus, they don't want us to do anything. At this point, it's after the 24th. They said that the less database changes, the better. So that's how we're going to work with it. Amy said, I am using the compact version of search results. Are they going to be able to change the appearance that the author appears right after the title before the list of libraries? I did talk to them about that, and right now it's kind of locked in place. There is some thought that they would be able to make those changes in a later release, but right now that's what we're working with. They don't have any options for us to be able to change that right now. Is there any other questions? You can either use the chat interface or you can, everyone's unmuted, so feel free to voice your opinion if you'd like.
Steve, it's Janice at Hales Corners.
Hi, Janice.
I have a very specific question. Right now in Millennium, you're able to delete an item record under the search holds function.
Sure.
And I don't see that in Sierra, and I know a lot is locked down. So could you just show us in Sierra on your screen,
sure,
in search holds, if you can actually bring up an item record and get the delete option?
Gotcha. I see. I hear what you're saying there. Let's bring up search holds mode. This is the training server, so we'll be able to see everything here. So let's do a search for Inferno. I don't know why I keep using this. This is, by the way, the compact browse mode. And what we see here is something very similar to how Millennium displays results. And what Amy was referring to was this list of information that appears after the title. So you see the owning library in this case, but also the author name. In our Millennium setup here, let's just do a quick search. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping around here. Let's see if we can find a good one. See, this here it shows the author and then the imprint immediately afterward. So right now we don't have the option to change any of that information. I just want to show you what Amy was referring to. Okay, well, let's go into, we'll pick Dante here. Change this to item, and we'll just attach a new item real quickly. Okay, now save it. Okay, so we have this new item record that's been added, and it's just a bogus one, so we're going to get rid of it. It should be under File, Delete Item Record. So, and I believe that's in the same place that it is in our search holds mode in Millennium.
You're right, it is.
Okay. And hopefully that will get deleted. And we're back to our initial item there. So it does appear like it's working.
Great, that's good news.
Great.
And could we remind everybody to click on their microphone button on the computer to mute themselves?
Sure. Yes, if everyone could just, there's a little microphone. I think most everybody has muted themselves, but if you see a little microphone, yeah, looks like everybody did it, so. Or most folks did it, so that's fine. Sheila had a question about many conversions do have a few glitches. Are you aware of any known issues that we should watch for? Not that I'm aware of. In fact, I talked to Innovative yesterday. We had our meeting right before. This is our last meeting we actually had with them before we are going to go live. And I asked them which version of Sierra we are going to be using, because there is a new one that came out a couple weeks ago, which is 1.2. And we're actually going to be using 1.2, so it does solve a lot of outstanding issues that they've had with, it seems like particularly slowness with create list searching, searching large lists, which is very helpful for us in our case. I'm not aware of anything that we really need to be on the alert for in terms of core functions that would affect us. But of course, I'll keep my ear to the ground and make sure that we're prepared for anything. I think the biggest things we're going to come across, honestly, on April 2nd are login issues, people unable to log in. I'm hopeful we'll get most of those resolved beforehand, but also the printing. I'm a little concerned about that printing issue, because unlike with Millennium, where you had one login and one printer setting for that login, for the suburban libraries in particular, you now have, 20 to 25 different logins, essentially, and those printer settings may need to be set correctly for each of those logins. It's not going to be like it's going to stop you in your tracks type of a problem, but you'll need to be aware of that when we come up and just make sure that those settings are in place. Let's see. Sheila's question was, do you know if there will be delivery on April 2nd? I'm not aware of any changes, so I'm assuming that delivery will take place on April 2nd. All the MICFLA staff will be here. The building will be open, so I don't anticipate that there will be any changes on April 2nd. Now, I tell you what, let me get some confirmation on that, and I can send that out. I'm going to send a reminder email to everyone today through the MICFLA notification list, and I will include the information regarding delivery on that, so everyone knows that. I'll just confirm that. There are some libraries that are closed that day, so that's a very good question. Okay, any other questions out there? Okay, Kathy has said via the chat interface that via her delivery guide there will be delivery. They've asked them to hold delivery to Thursday. That's from Kathy. I will find out for sure what. I'm pretty sure that nothing's going to change for those libraries that are open. Well, I do have a question for you guys. Is the general response to Sierra, can you gauge what your staff is talking about and what their perceptions are? Are there possible issues that you've seen come up while talking with your staff? I know it's very hard to judge this until we actually go live. I think we'll find the issues once we go live. That's just part of the process here. But I think dealing with the logins and the settings beforehand will help a great deal. And Kathy says it has a cleaner look. They're concerned about the drop-down menu. I get that. With April 2nd, we're giving them a lot of information on that first screen. Well, for North Shore, it's a little different, I think, for your desk. I think you're just seeing circulation functions, but yeah, there might be some information there. That's why the macros will be handy. I think if you check those out, start using the F1, F2, F3, those three in particular will help you navigate between the most used cert functions in particular. Janice has mentioned that the desk clerks like it, and it's the same as Millennium, where there are changes there for the better. No more busied records, which I'm really looking forward to. They also like the look and the fact that the modules are no longer separate, but easily and quickly accessible through the drop-down function menu. In some cases, and I agree with that, I think that's a plus. Some folks have pointed out if you wanted to do like multiple functions at the desk, if you're working at reference and you're doing acquisitions work along with your cataloging, you kind of like to have both modules open. And I suggested that folks that really want to have like multiple instances of Sierra open can do it. It's not the best scenario, but it will work. We can also change your login to use multi-user or multi-window mode, which means that when you open up a record, say a bibliographic record in Sierra, it won't necessarily close that record when you switch to a different function. It will keep it open. So if you're editing a record in cataloging mode, someone comes up to the desk and wants to place a hold, you can easily leave that record open and come back to it later while you're working with the patron in circulation desk mode. Any other questions out there? Sheila's question was, what is the default for the multiple functions? I believe most folks are using single window mode so that it opens up the record within the window, kind of like what we have here displayed on the screen. I might be in multiple window mode. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So if I click on Edit, if I'm on single window mode, it will just open it up in the same frame that I'm currently using. If it's multi-window mode, and this I believe is single window mode, it will just open it up in a different window, and it will keep that window open regardless of what I do in the main function area. So if I click on Browse here, it brings me back to the Browse screen. If you do want that changed, and you're seeing it looking like it works here, and you want to use multi-window mode, and again, that's usually a cataloging or acquisitions use. They use it all the time up, for example, in MPL CCDM cataloging to work with multiple records at the same time. If you do want to use that mode, it's definitely open to you, and you can test it out if you like. Any other questions? Well, just a few reminders. I'll send out an email today to everyone in the system regarding what to expect on April 2nd, how that process is going to work. Pretty much just going to outline everything we just talked about. But if you do have any other questions that come up, please just send me an email or give me a call. I'd be happy to work out anything. I've had a number of people find slight discrepancies in their settings that they've been able to correct now, and we really appreciate being able to do that now rather than on April 2nd. So I really appreciate your patience throughout the whole process, and if there's anything we can do to make this go easier, by all means, give me a call, and we'll do what we can to iron things out. So thanks a lot, everybody. I really appreciate your help with this. And with that, I think we will end the session. Thanks a lot, everybody. And give me a line, throw me a line if you have any other questions. Thanks much. Bye-bye.